Hey friends, it's Jen from Life, Love, and Puppy Paws, and I have some exciting news to share with you today.
I lose my breath whenever I see you. You stole my heart, what is it that you do? My life was great till you added colors. Like the moon needs the sun, we don't care about the others. You set my world on fire.
That's right, I'm pregnant. So I have a lot of things to share with you. Before we get started though, just a little bit of background on me. My name again is Jen from Life, Love, and Puppy Paws, and if you're new here, I'm a working mama. I do have a 3-year-old little boy named Matthew, and my channel Life, Love, and Puppy Paws focuses on content such as motherhood, homemaking, and home decor. So today I want to share with you a little bit about my pregnancy, my journey to become pregnant, and then if you stick around to the end, I am going to be sharing our gender reveal with you. So to get started, I am 42 years old and pregnant. This is a little miracle baby. We were under the impression that after dealing with some fertility struggles with my son, and then also just starting off with some more fertility struggles the second time around, we were under the impression that it was going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, for me to get pregnant. So the fact that this pregnancy is happening is, especially at being 42 years old, is definitely a miracle. We had put everything in God's hands, and He has made this little miracle happen. So I do want to share a little bit about that journey to becoming pregnant, and then also just how things are going, because I am currently 20 weeks pregnant as of when I'm filming this. So I'll share just a little background of how things have been going and some updates that we've been having with some of my checkups. So to get started, let's talk about how I ended up getting pregnant. So as I mentioned, we had some struggles with getting pregnant with my son. It took 2 years to get pregnant, and we had multiple losses. I did seek the care of a fertility doctor, although we only used Clomid to get pregnant with him. We did not have to do an IUI or IVF, but we did have a couple of losses before we did finally successfully get pregnant with him. So we knew going into having a second baby that there would be some challenges, and so we were really just kind of leaving it up to the Lord at first on if this was going to happen. We pretty much just didn't do anything to prevent getting pregnant. We had, after all of the struggles that we had, we kind of felt like if we were to get pregnant again, even quickly after having my son, we would consider that a miracle. So although in the beginning we weren't really trying, we weren't preventing anything. And so when my son was about approaching 2 years old, we thought, well, nothing has happened so far. Let's go back to the fertility doctor and just see what our options are. At this time, I was 41 years old. I was 38 when I got pregnant with my son. I was 39 when I had him. And then when I was 41, we decided to go to seek the advice of the fertility doctor just to see what my options were. And so my numbers had dropped significantly since when I had seen him in the past. And so one of the things that he was concerned about was that, I'd already had some struggles getting pregnant. It wasn't going to be any easier to get pregnant the second time around, and that the chances of getting pregnant would be pretty slim. So he did set expectations. We did do a couple of rounds of Clomid and some similar type of drugs to try to see if that would help me to ovulate and to get pregnant. And after I believe about 5 rounds of that, it wasn't happening. And so we finally decided to do an IUI. So we did our first IUI actually a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. And I did get pregnant off of that IUI, but we learned pretty quickly that my numbers weren't rising like they should. And that, and we learned a couple weeks after getting that positive pregnancy test that I was actually having an ectopic pregnancy. And so that was extremely unfortunate, very disappointing. It was also kind of scary because we were getting in the beginning of COVID, and I ended up having to have an emergency surgery to remove the ectopic pregnancy, and I lost one of my fallopian tubes. So that was really hard to go through. We were in the middle of quarantine and my son was home from daycare. I was trying to work from home while also being a full-time mom. I was trying to recover from the surgery. I was also trying to emotionally recover from a pregnancy loss. And it just felt very heavy, and it was a very difficult time for us last year in the spring and going into the summer. And so my husband and I thought really long and hard about, what we wanted to do. Did we want to go back to the fertility doctor and try again, or do we just kind of want to leave it up in the air, and if God meant for us to have a second child, we would have a second child, and if not, then we would just try to embrace our family of 3 and give our son the best life possible. And so it was around August, September timeframe of this year, or of 2020, that we just made the decision that we weren't going to go back and seek any additional fertility treatment, that we were going to, if it was meant to be, we would have another child. Otherwise, we would just move forward with our family of 3, and we would make the best of everything and be happy as a family of 3. So it was interesting because back in September, I went to my regular exam with my regular OB, and she was like, "What is your plan? Are you planning on going back and seeking fertility treatment? What exactly are you looking to do?" I am 42 years old, so time is definitely not on my side. And I had just said, at this point in time, we're just kind of leaving it up to God. And if it's meant to be, we'll have another baby. Otherwise, we are just going to enjoy our family of 3. And her response was that's the perfect plan. So interestingly enough, 2 weeks from when I had that appointment, I found out that I was pregnant. So it was a complete surprise. I had felt a little bit nauseous, and I was just extremely tired. And given the fact that we've been in the middle of COVID the last year, I kind of wondered, am I getting COVID? Is this like the early stages of getting COVID? Just because I was so extremely exhausted and just kind of feeling off. And so we were getting ready to go on vacation in a couple of weeks. And I thought, well, I'm either getting sick or, there is a possibility I could be pregnant. So I decided to take a pregnancy test just on a whim. I was about a week or so, a little less than a week late, but my cycles were off half the time anyway, so I wasn't really expecting to be pregnant. I thought, let's just check one box and see if that's a possibility, and if it's not, then prepare for me potentially being sick and hoping that I can get over this before we had our vacation. So I took the test. I didn't even tell Rick that I was taking a test because, again, I didn't really think that it was going to be positive, and I just wanted to kind of more like check the box and be like, yeah, it's not, this isn't the case, it's got to be something else. And I was extremely shocked that it came back positive, because we were under the impression I had a 1% chance of getting pregnant even with fertility treatment. And here I am pregnant with us not even trying. And so when I showed it to him, he was like, "Are you kidding me? Is this really real?" And I think we started that pregnancy test 1,000,001 times that night, because it was a very faint line, but there was definitely a line. And so we were just like, is this really real? I'm not quite sure if it is or not. So I actually took a second test the next morning because I didn't really trust the first test. And the second test was a little bit darker, still faint, but it was a little bit darker. And so I was like, okay, maybe this really is real. And so I waited about a week before I finally called the doctor to say, hey, I think that I might be pregnant. I actually almost took a third test. I didn't. I just said, it would be best just to finally call the doctor and get in and have them do a blood test and check my levels and see if this was even possible. So I went in for my first appointment at 6 weeks, and I met with a nurse practitioner, and she did some blood work and then immediately had me taken back for a scan. Because I'd had an ectopic pregnancy previously, I believe there's a 10% risk you could have another one. Your risks of having another ectopic after having one ectopic is much higher than your risks of having one in the first place. And so she did have me do an ultrasound with one of the doctors to confirm that it wasn't an ectopic, and we did see a yolk sac during that scan, so that was super exciting to see that there was something there and that it was an ectopic. And so she just said, at this point, we're just going to bring you back at 8.5 weeks, and we'll do a scan, another scan with the doctor, and see if we hear a heartbeat. So I left feeling confident, but a little scared, just because we'd had so many losses that, wow, there really was a baby. This happened. This is a complete miracle. We were not expecting it at all, but it was definitely a miracle baby. And so, interestingly enough, I got really, really sick later on that week, and it was right as we were getting ready to go on vacation. I got extremely sick, very nauseous, had really bad heartburn. I ended up in the ER, completely missed our vacation because I was way too sick to travel at the time, but I ended up in the ER for dehydration and just extreme nausea, and they couldn't find the baby. And I was like, it was just heartbreaking, because not only was I extremely sick and missing our vacation, this miracle baby that I had thought God had given us, like I thought was now being taken away from me. And this would have been my 5th loss. And it was heartbreaking to hear that I could be going through another loss. And so it was an ultrasound tech at the ER. She was just not able to find it. They had suggested I schedule a follow-up visit with my doctor the next day, which I did, just to confirm. But at that point in time, they were diagnosing me being so sick with having a miscarriage. And so luckily I was able to get an appointment with my OB the next morning. And so it's not like I had to wait a long time to get confirmation, but I went in, I was just barely 7 weeks pregnant at this point in time, and my regular doctor was able to find the baby. And so basically the ultrasound tech just wasn't, like, it was like, I guess, like tucked like into this one part of my uterus that if you put the ultrasound wand one way, you wouldn't see it, but then if you moved it another way, you did see it. And so it sounded like the ultrasound tech at the ER just missed it. And so they were able to find the baby. It was still too early on to hear a heartbeat. We didn't hear a heartbeat at that appointment, but they weren't overly concerned at that point because I was still pretty early on. And we had another follow-up appointment in another week and a half when I would have been 8.5 weeks that they were going to test for the heartbeat. So at that point in time, they just confirmed that yes, you were still pregnant, there was still a baby there was still hope, and they had prescribed me some medication for the nausea. I pretty much spent that entire week that should have been our vacation either in bed or on the couch because I was just so extremely sick, until I could finally get a good routine with the medications. And so once I was able to finally get the medications in and get kind of, back to eating and get my strength back up from just not being able to eat and drink much for a couple of days, then I started to feel a little bit better. So then we went in for the 8-week ultrasound. I was 8.5 weeks, getting close to 9 weeks, and we heard the heartbeat, and it was just the most amazing sound. I think I started crying. Or at least I was tearing up because I was just so grateful to hear that heartbeat, especially after we had this scare that I was going to be potentially losing the baby. So that was really good news. So pretty much from there on out, things seemed to go as normal. As normal as until in December, our family came down with COVID. So here I am, I think I was 12 weeks, almost 13 weeks, and I came down with COVID. And so luckily I had a very mild case. Our whole family had it. Well, actually, our whole family, meaning my husband and myself, and we think my son, we didn't get him tested, but we believe the three of us definitely had it. My husband and I both tested positive, but we had a very, very mild case. So we were very, very, very lucky that even though we got COVID and I was pregnant, it was a very, very mild case of COVID. And so I just had a really bad headache, extreme exhaustion, and we did both lose our sense of smell and taste for a couple of days. My husband had a little bit, he had a little bit more of a sore throat and a cough going on, but for the most part, I just had a really bad headache and extreme exhaustion, and I lost my sense of taste and smell. So can't complain that was the worst that happened, given the fact that I was pregnant, and that we know that a lot of other people have had it so much worse than us. So extremely lucky. But other than that, things had been going pretty well. Up until now, I am 20 weeks pregnant. And so I've finally been able to get my nausea a little bit under control, still with the assistance of medication. I am still extremely tired. I don't know if that's just being pregnant with a toddler, being pregnant with a 3-year-old. Like, he is so full of energy, and he does not understand that mom is pregnant, mama doesn't feel good, mama wants to sleep in the morning. He's like up sometimes at like 6:15, ready to go. And so I think that's just been the hardest part as of late, is just that extreme exhaustion. And like, again, with my first pregnancy, I didn't have a toddler or someone else to take care of at that point in time. So I could take naps, or I could sleep in, or I could just take it really easy. And, with this second time around, having a 3-year-old, like, who is just like the Energizer bunny who has decided to give up naps, it's just been really hard. So, but other than that, I can't complain. I'm definitely happy that my appetite's back, that I'm able to eat things, that, I am starting to get a little bit of energy back, but I've been a little MIA on Instagram and on my YouTube channel just because the exhaustion has been so extreme. It's just like every time I put him to bed, I just want to crash. So it's just been hard to film videos and edit videos and get content going, but I am going to hopefully try to get a little bit more into this. If you've made it this far, I know that was a lot of information to share. Thank you for sticking around. I would love to hear any advice on how to get through a pregnancy with a 3-year-old, how to survive being completely exhausted, but having to keep going with a 3-year-old. Any tips or tricks below, definitely please share. But if you stuck around to the end, I want to share with you our gender. So I have a couple of clips from where we've shared the gender with our family. So I will insert them in here.
So what do we do?
Take the paper off.
Take the paper off.
Light it. Oh, I know.
And rip it open.
Yep.
A boy!
Oh, you poor souls.
2 boys.
Oh boy.
1, 2, 3.
Go.
Yay!
Oh my goodness, I need that boy.
Me neither. Oh.
Oh.
Yay! You're having a brother.
Oh my goodness, wow.
You're having a brother.
Oh.
Thanks again for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in more pregnancy updates, please click the subscribe button, as I will definitely share more information as I get it. If you're also interested, I've got some other videos planned, including some decorating videos. I've got my spring decor video coming up in February. I'm planning some routine videos, some planning videos, and some other mama hack videos. So please subscribe and turn your notifications on, and get ready for some more fun videos coming up here soon. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a great day.